everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. And before we start, I want to give a little introduction of why at all this and why me. In this one life, I have lived many lives of that of an engineer, entrepreneur, a hustler, a mom, a guitarist, many things. And nothing could keep me up beyond 10. Even the weddings in the family, I couldn't stay up after 10. But there is something magical about this community that Prashant has created that has started keeping me up in the night. Yesterday I was up till 3 and this morning I woke up at 10:30. That has not happened in last 20-30 years of my life. So if a community has a power of bringing that kind of change in someone, imagine what it can do for everybody else in the world. And wish the school, the colleges, the companies where people are very unhappy about their work, if they could have this kind of atmosphere where everyone is thriving and everyone is supporting others to thrive, so India will be like very different India from what it is today. So not taking much of time of you all, I would straight away start shooting questions to Prashant to get the secrets of this community that is thriving together. So Prashant, these are some questions we have received from the community. The first question that I have for you is, how did you select the people to make sure that we all succeed as a community?
Yeah, one is you don't necessarily select people. So what when I first started thinking about the build community, I was very sure about a few things, right? One is obviously it would not be for everybody, because one of the common mistakes that I see happening when people try to build communities is they would want to become everything for everyone. In fact, a lot of dead communities are dead because of this reason. Because they're like, okay, now we'll do this also for them also, no product also, data also, this also, everybody. So you try to become everything for everyone, which I was very clear that I'll become everything for some people, right? And if you start with that objective, then obviously coming to your question, you need to define who are those some people. And what you define is not how you will select, but how will you ensure that the quality of people who get in is high, so that the quality of the community is very high, right? Now what we did initially is few things, right? So if you look at the form that we have for build, right, it automatically is kind of a rejection mechanism, right? So what it does is it will ask you for Twitter, LinkedIn, and then it will ask you 2 questions, right? If you had all of the resources in the world, what would you build, right? And then there is another question which is around have you thought of side project ideas, and have you built those things? So basically, if I look at the LinkedIn of a person, and if I look at the answer, especially to the question that if you had all of the resources in the world, what would you build? It gives us enough food for thought to understand whether this person has enough fire in his or her mind to be able to actually build things. Because there are some people who will write, I want to do this because of my resume. We automatically reject that person, right? Because we know that the motivation of that person is not aligned to what we really want to do in the community, right? Now, if we were trying to say that, okay, we want to become everything for everyone, resume, you build things, resume will become good. Okay, you also come, pay money, come, right? If you look at our CRM, actually, Aditi, you will see that we have rejected more people than we have actually sent emails to confirm to come onto the cohort, right? So there are more people whom we have rejected than actually even gone and proceeded and moved ahead for the next steps. But what we do really, like I in fact do that a lot, is if we feel that this person is good and we'd add a lot of value because of his or her background and then answer to these 2 questions, then I go all out, right? In fact, all of the people who have joined would have received so many emails from me. So many, they would have received WhatsApp kind of follow-up also from me, because I'm like, even if they hate me for doing this, if they get into the community, they'll start liking me, right? And I'm pretty sure that if this person gets into the community, they'll add a lot of value. So short answer to your question is, yes, there is a selection rubric, but we don't necessarily define it like that. We are like, okay, through these 3 questions, can we understand whether this person would bring value to the community or not? If, then yes. If no, then reject it.
So that resume answer was really funny. Do you recollect any other funny answers to that question from so many applications you saw?
Oh my God. Actually, I'll see it right away and I'll read out of you, right? Because it is so funny. Like lots and lots of them. I'll actually read out because you guys will like it now that okay, let me go to the rejected section. So one is to showcase in my resume. The other person has written to learn to build to showcase, right? So it is like, three reasons why you do want to do side projects: to learn, to build, to showcase. And like this person is not even able to write what he or she wants to do, right?
Yeah, right.
Somebody has written cash, comma, money. Like imagine if we get these kind of, I'm not judging, but I'm saying that they are not really the right people right now for the community. If we were to become like a 50,000 member, through some way we figure out how this scales, then maybe this can become everything for everyone, but not right now when we are trying to ensure and do quality control, right? Somebody has written make, right? That's the one of the most funniest one is satisfaction. I'm not sure what satisfaction this person.
Right. Also, Prashant, whenever we received any communication from you before the selection process or during the selection process, every email felt very personalized.
Yeah.
So it must have required a lot of effort at your end to make every person feel that special.
I'm glad that you asked this. I'm glad that you noted it. One is yes, I want to, and we want to ensure that at no instance somebody feels that there is an automation going, whether we are reaching out on WhatsApp or if we are sending a communication via email. If you actually remember, the email that you would have gotten for your selection would have actually spoken about your idea that you had mentioned. So what I do is I'll write like a template email and I'll leave some blanks to personalize it. But the overall tone will not still feel templatized, right? It would feel like very personal, very human, because if you're trying to build a community, right? And at the first instance, if people feel transactional through your communication, there's a very high chance that they'll repulse to it, because there's so much of things that there's so many things that people try to sell you that if you send a transactional and they're like, I don't want to become a part of it. But if you make it very human and personalized, they'll actually notice it. And I'm not surprised that you notice. So yeah, that is intentional. It does take a lot of effort, but yeah, it has its own dividends.
Then there was one more question which I remember, Prashant, you had asked, who did you help last?
Yeah, because, and in fact, that is also one of the places in which we end up kind of telling a few people that, boss, we may not be able to move forward with you. Like, right, doesn't look like now is the right time for you to be in this community. So what happens is a few things. In fact, Shreyas, who's a part of the community, he also reached out sometime and told me that that's a brilliant way of doing a few things. One is, if you look at a video of someone speaking, it is so easy to figure out the energy of the person. You cannot fake your personality on a video, right? It's very hard to fake your personality on a video. And we are able to make out whether this person would add positive energy to the community or fundamentally this person is very negative, right? In fact, I have rejected a few people who were very negative. I have rejected mentors people who wanted to become mentors, but their fundamental outlook to life is very negative, right? Where they start by saying why things will not work, and not by thinking why things will work or how things can work. So one is you can figure out how, what their energy is. Two is it gives a very clear window into understanding whether this person is actually someone who helps others, right? And when you are speaking on a video, if you are making up the fact that you actually helped, it will show through your expressions, right? If you have helped, you'll speak about it very naturally. So when we look at the video, we are like, okay, what is the energy? And is this person making up, or is he or she actually speaking the truth when it comes to helping others? Because if you don't have the attitude to help others, then you are trying to join a community in which you will try to extract value without giving back anything, right? And that, obviously we'll come to this question later, but that is why 99% of the community actually die and fail, right? Because most of the people come there to extract, and in the process nobody is giving, so nobody is extracting. And that question helps us to determine whether people have that attitude in the first place or not.
And this thanks for answering that, Prashant. Is it the same reason that the power of community is what driving the way of learning from live videos or classrooms to cohort based learning?
Community is definitely one big part of why cohort-based courses are taking over, right? And it seems to be It seems to be the new kind of education, and obviously everyone around the world is talking about it, right? Short answer to your question, absolutely. But community is also the hardest thing to get right? In cohort based courses, you cannot be like, okay, there will be live classes. Basically, what's the difference between the earlier phase of education companies and now the new phase of cohort? It is that in the early phase they were recorded content. Now most of the things happen in a live manner, where you attend these sessions live, and then you have a lot of discussions, feedback, etc. happening in the community, right? Now community does play like more than 50% role in in impacting how a CBC would perform, but it is also the easiest thing to get wrong, right? It's not the easiest thing to actually get right. So yeah, community is why we are seeing this new phase of the new way of education coming to the fore.
Also, Prashant, if I've understood correctly, the core value of the community is you will get help only if you help. Did I get it correct, or do you think the essence of community is something else?
No, there's a lot of essence, right? When we say what is the essence of the community, that is one of the ways in which, that's one of the operating principles of the community, that before you ask, you give, right? Because if you don't give before you ask, then everybody's asking and nobody is there to give, and the community is dead, right? The essence is, for example, what is the goal of it? So every single thing matters. Who gets into the community? Are you very intentional about what happens on a daily basis, weekly basis? And then most importantly, what is the goal of people to be in that community, right? Because if there is no goal, then there is no value, right? Because if there is no goal, then people don't know what is the value, and you are not going to be very intentional about taking people to that value. People are not realizing value, so they become inactive, right? I'll tell you how communities, people are like, oh, now I'll form a community around creators. So what, right? Like creators, what? You can't say no. So if you see on LinkedIn, somebody posts that, okay, if you are working in product management, drop your number, drop your email, we'll create a group. That group dies within 10 days, right? Because that is not community, that's a group, right? Of people who had no goal, no common objective. And even the person who was doing it was so selfish, it almost looks like you want to bring people together, promote a few things and get done with it, right? So the essence starts right from who gets into the community. Are you intentional about what is happening on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? And most importantly, have you defined the value or the goal or the objective of the community? Because that is the single point of failure of communities.
Got that, Prashant. Also, I've observed that, effort on your side is really a lot to keep people together and to make sure that everybody is, contributing well and to help each other. So I want to understand in terms of like measuring that effort, and how frequently do you need to reinforce the values of the community?
Yeah, one is how frequently, let me come to the second question first, right? Which is how frequently do you need to reinforce? So I told you that the single point of failure of communities, or most communities, is, and I'm not even saying that we are a successful community as of right now. So single point of failure for communities is not defining the value or the objective. In the same vein, it is also that they don't have a set value system, right? It almost feels like anywhere where there are people coming from different backgrounds, aspirations, like willingness to do things, you cannot have them operate in a randomized fashion, right? Because people fundamentally need a systematic way to actually operate themselves. The problem with communities is they feel that, okay, if I bring 10,000 people together, they'll be able to figure out how to behave and operate. No, right? And that is where even like the first interaction that happens for people who get here, right, at Build, we speak so much about the values, right? So that is where, if you think about the email communication that starts going out to people at Build, they start understanding, okay, there seems to be some professionalism, some kind of human angle to it. Then they get into the kickoff, where we speak so much about giving and then taking, and then we actually read out the values, right? Put it on the slide and read out. The thing is, you cannot say that these are the values, right? You actually have to put it there, read it out for people. Then if you remember, I actually asked whether are you guys good with it? If you remember that kickoff, right? And every one of you actually wrote yes, right? And I actually also asked whether you want to make this place a number game or a family game. Family in the sense, not a family, no, you cannot become like a family, but you can become people who are willing to go out of your way to help each other, right? So that it starts like right in the first instance of communication when people are getting into the community. And then I would say that there should not be like a fixed duration, but whenever you are seeing that the community is actually deviating from these operating principles or the values, you have to outline it, and you don't assume that people will get back to that way of operating, because the natural way for people to operate is to operate in the way that they operate in any other community, right? And that is why whenever you observe that people are actually deviating, you kind of, in fact, if you observe what I do, sometimes I would, a masterclass is happening, post the masterclass, I would just say that, hey guys, this, it is actually speaking about values, but using different words, right? So you don't have to keep saying, okay, like you'll see companies that put up posters of values. That is not how values get ingrained in people's, like behavior. You have to, a lot of times, if you see, I come across as someone who's actually depicting through my behavior the values of the community, right? Because if I can't depict that behavior, then others won't. A lot of times, that is how it gets driven. At other times, you just can't say, and you can't keep posting, let's say if the community is on Slack, you can't keep posting that, okay, these are the 3 values, everybody, do you agree? You can't keep doing that, right? Because we're like, what the hell is this? You have to, let's say if somebody makes or does something which is not in line with the values, then, make it funny. Don't point fingers at people, make them understand that this is not in line with how we do things, but it should not become like a school teacher wala game, right? So yeah, those are the softer ways in which you align, but the moot point was you don't kind of do it at a fixed schedule or an interval. You only do it at a time when you see it missing from the community, that most people tend to be deviating. Most importantly, the people who are running the community needs to be the people who operate with that values.
So lead by example, right?
Yeah.
So your point of teachers reminded me of the fact that in school we had both kind of teachers. We had the teachers whom we loved. We had the teachers whom we hated. Like, maybe hated is too strong a word, but just for the sake of the fact that they'll just scold and get you to do the right thing, and not really take it in a way that you take, and slowly make them understand that this is the way to go. So you are one of the teachers whom we all love. If everybody agrees to this, maybe you guys can give a yes in the chat.
I would write a yes. And I also.
So moving on to the next question, Prashant. Although what Jay has asked, I think it is impossible, but still I'll put it across. He says, how to keep a track of community and ensuring it's thriving without being a part of it.
Yeah, I actually saw this question and I didn't fully understand it. I'll still take a shot or a dig at it. How to keep track of community and ensure it's thriving without being a part of it, right? Like, so let's say if you start a community, right? And assuming that you're saying that, okay, if I start a community, and then how do I ensure that it's growing and thriving without it needing all of my time, energy, effort? Like, I'm not giving my life to it. I'm assuming that is the question, right?
Maybe when you are no longer with the community.
Yeah, correct. Correct, right? So basically, your incentive or your direction has changed. Your priorities have changed in life, and there are other things that you need to do or give time to. So basically, this is where it comes down to few things. One is when you were active in the community, right? Were you able to bring this spirit of the fact that it is not you who's running the community, but it is the community who's running the community, right? Because if it comes down to the fact that, okay, this runs because you are there, then the moment you go off, the community is off, right? Obviously, right now in the build community, a lot of it looks like I might be driving, but I'll give you an example of how I'm actually moving out of that, right? Moving out of the sense, I'm not going anywhere. Basically, what you do is if you're building a place that is thriving, where people are collaborating, they're helping each other, they're most importantly, they're driving value, and they are very thankful and grateful for that value, then what you will see is people would come back to you and say and offer help, anything, something for the community. Then it is on you on whether how you can define the incentive for people and get them engaged in the community. One of the things that we did that all of you saw was this institutionalization of something called Builders in Residence, or BIR, right? Now, what happened is post cohort 1, everybody got this tremendous value and they're like, now I want to do everything for the community. I could have said very well, no boss, this is my thing. I'll keep running it, right? I don't need anybody's help, right? Now, if you see there's this 20 people who are builders in residence, they actually think of build as their own community. Yeah, they don't feel that they actually, in fact, a lot of things that we do in today's date, I get it reviewed by them. So they review it, send comments, etc. And then we put it out to everybody, right? Now, what needs to happen there is, if you operate with the mindset that you're bringing in people together, you will share things, you'll promote things, you extract value out of them, then people will not get value. Then they'll not come back to you and say that I want to do something for this community. Then because they'll not say they want to do something for the community, you cannot even design incentives for them, right? If you get to a point where people are willing to do things for you, then the only thing that you have to do is, can you define incentives in a way such that their motivation to give back to the community does not fade away quickly. So let's say if Shreyas was to tell me that, hey Prashant, I want to do a lot for this community, I cannot just tell him yes, because his time is worth a lot, right? Now I have to define what is that tangible thing that he gets out of it, right? I actually defined that, sent it to all 20 people, they loved it, right? And then they are like, yeah. And then let's say now when cohort 2 gets over, we might become even more selective with, but then it is becoming like a collective community of people who want to run it together and ensure that it is always successful, right? And that is how you ensure that it keeps thriving without you being involved.
So I think that autopilot mode can come, but not fully is what I feel. Yes, there are builders in residence, they will. Maybe the kind of contribution that comes from you may decrease from each cohort, because you have more people working towards the same cause.
Correct, absolutely. And it should ideally not, because if you are running a community, then if you get totally detached and you get out of it, then the core essence or the way the community runs will be hard for others to replicate, right? Because there's some energy, there's some enthusiasm, there's some way of doing things that you bring to the community that should remain. So your involvement may go down, but the core thing that you drive for the community, that should stay, and that will not need a lot of time. So for example, in today's date, the BIRs are doing all of these calls and helping others, right? I'm actually not doing it, right? Which basically means that I can focus so much around bringing good people in. I can focus so much around doing an absolutely kick-ass kickoff, right? Because that is what sets the energy and the tone for the cohort. Moving forward, I can actually decrease so many things off my plate and focus on the most, high value things that we actually do in the community, right? And that would also mean that my time involvement in the community is going down, but the value in the community is not going down.
Right. So well said, Prashant. I think it's time for the most voted question here. So how do we create a community which is related to a product, and how to create one around an open source project?
Actually, all those 10 votes are from me, so it's kind of like a
so you hacked the voting, is it?
No. Yeah, something like that.
So you wanted to make sure that this question gets asked. Oh,
yeah.
How do you do that? I also want the question to come up.
Before Rajiv had questions that actually suits the flow that we were talking about. Do you want to take those first?
Yeah, sure. Why did you choose Slack, Prashant? Why not any other this community interaction?
Correct. Because community is about people and not about tools, right? So what happens is, actually, when a lot of people, when they would start thinking about community, they would start by thinking, should I select Circle, Discord, Slack, Falana, Dinkana, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. They're not thinking about people, how are they going to operate? What are the things you need to do? Will people find it easy? What are things you want to accomplish in the community? So basically what happened is, when I was thinking about build, I thought about the people, what's the persona of people who are getting in? If you look at it, it's actually quite distributed. There's 80% of the people who's within 30 years, but there's 20% of people who are beyond 30 years of age also. Right? Now that means that if you look at Discord even below 30-year people find hard to get. Right? It's not very easy for everybody to actually understand Discord. Right? Imagine the people who are in their 40s and they'll be like, they might spend 1 week just to understand how is this community even running. Right? And I didn't want people to go through that like mental torture where they are not even understanding what's happening here. And there would have been, in any cohort, there would have been 10 to 15 people who start on a note where they are not even satisfied. Right? Because Slack is very commonplace, right? It is almost used in every company now. You still have a better chance of like recall and familiarity with people across the age group. And that was the reason, because like it has to work for your use case. Slack was like, okay, can I create? I was like, okay, I need all of these channels. Slack has that. Okay, I want to do audio rooms. Okay, Slack has that. I want to ensure that most of the discussions happens in threads. Yes, Slack has that, right? And I'm like, okay, these are the most important things that I need. And then to top it all, it was familiarity, right? It was familiarity. It was not anything else, because more people are comfortable and familiar with Slack than with Circle, Discord, or anything else.
I think that gives us an insight towards our product building also, to make sure that the product is intuitive to use.
Yeah, and Sabin says, what about Teams, right? Which is, Teams is also there, right, Sabin? But it is not as commonplace. You will not, if you were to look at 10 companies, right? Like new age companies, 8 of them will be on Slack, not on Teams. There might be one who's on Discord and one who's on Teams, but 8 of them are on like Slack. In terms of their async communication is all on Slack. And if you look at the persona of our builders, right, they are from Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, and all of these international. There's London, Singapore, etc., etc. So in fact, we have people from the US also. If you look at the people coming from these cities, there is no way you can say that they will not be familiar with Slack. I would be blown away if no one has come to me and said that they have not even seen Slack in their life till now. But if we had done Discord, there would have been, I'm pretty sure, right, that there would have been so many builders who would have come and said, yeah, Prashant, can we do a masterclass on Discord?
True, even I would need one, Prashant. Today when Mohit shared, I was trying to figure out what to do in it. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I think a masterclass would be needed around Discord. Now, in Slack, I also observed the kind of channels you have created. So it's not just, informative that masterclass is going to happen at so much time. This is the link. But there are many channels which are, which have that specific purpose of keeping people together, and not just the cohort learning purpose. For example, there is gratitude. There are memes. There is a general thread. There is get unstuck. So can you please talk about what brought you, what made you bring those channels to the community?
Yeah, because I think a lot of, and we may be coming to this question soon, but one of the essence that people don't get is community is about a good community of people who run it very well are people who actually understand human emotions, right? And people who actually understand what drives human behavior. That is like what makes them feel good, what might make them not feel so good, etc., etc. Like everybody knows that when you get appreciated, you like it, right? Like it's such a like nobody can question that, right? And it's not that people are craving for like gratitude, let's say in the gratitude. And in fact, it was Neeti who came up with this thing that we should have a gratitude channel, because in a community, if you're doing things for others and you're not getting small recognition, then you'll stop doing it, right? Like that is again thinking about incentives, right? What are the incentives for you to do good also? It cannot be like, okay, yes, you want to do good so that you can get in return, but somebody called you out and said thanks. It always feels much better than anything else. It is so important to understand, how humans work and how people work when you are trying to build a community. So that was the idea behind gratitude. Let's say the other channels, memes, in fact, it is so common across workplaces now, because if you keep it very serious all the time, then that community has ingredients to become a dead community, right? Because you are already doing things on the side, you have a full-time job, your boss is angry, you are angry with your boss, and then you're on this channel which is full serious, right? And then you're like, dude, like, let me go out of this place, right? And that is why there is fun, and we think about fun, and we have fun as one of our values also, right? In the community. The last thing that I would say is, in fact, I keep receiving suggestions on my DMs that Prashant, can we create this channel, that channel? That is the starting point of where and how the community actually dies. So what would happen is, let's say if you create 50 channels, then in each channel, the number of active people is 2.
Right.
Which means that you do anything on any channel and nobody cares. And because nobody cares, you don't care and you're dead. Dead in the sense, you're like, okay, leave this community. And that's where we are very intentional, and we are very cautious that we will not keep creating channels. Okay, now one crypto channel, one this channel, one NFT channel, one this channel, one that channel. It looks and sounds very enticing to actually go ahead and create a crypto channel, right? But that is not aligned with what we want to do.
So actually, when you said that appreciation makes you feel good. So when a couple of people expressed gratitude for me, I actually took a snapshot of that and preserved it like close to my heart. I even shared it with my loved ones. So that's the kind of feel that you get when, and it's not just at the time when the person expressed the gratitude, but I think generally as humans, we feel happy about helping each other. To many of us, it comes naturally, to help.
Correct. To many of us, it does come naturally, and in fact, you might be surprised with this, Aditi, to most of the people, it doesn't come naturally. Wherein two things: we don't ask for help, and two is we don't say thanks and express gratitude when people actually help. Right? What's her name?
She's Dia.
Oh, hi Dia. How are you?
Yeah.
Say hi. Thanks, Kuhu. Okay.
Dia, I'll show you something. Wait, 1 minute.
Oh, wow. You want to say hi? So, yeah, Prashant, and then there is one more channel called Get Unstuck. Would you like to share a couple of things about it?
Very simple, right? Because what happens is, if you don't have a dedicated place where you can go and ask for help, irrespective of whether that's small, big, medium, whatever it is, right? Be shameless about asking for help, then you will not even ask for help. And there are different, that's where, right? Coming back to, you have to understand people. There are people who are introverts and there are people who are extroverts. Right? Now, introverts may not be like, they cannot always reach out to people and say that someone help me. Extroverts might be people who are always like, okay, this is what I'm looking for, help me. On the other hand, and that's one of the reasons why we have asked people to have Calendly, because introverts will not put it out in terms of asking for help. They'll just find people, like, okay, let me look for who's the right people and then reach out to them, put time on the calendar and speak. That's the most they'll do, right? But it's not that they are wrong. That's how they operate, right? And you have to have an environment where they can also succeed. So that is why, because most people in a community will mostly tend to be extroverts, wherein they'll not shy away from asking. So you need to have a dedicated place, but you also need to have a way for people who may not be extroverts, so that they can also chat with others and ask for help. And that is why the profile has Calendly and those things.
Prashant, I'm sure the community is going to turn those introverts into extroverts by the time we, pass out from this cohort.
Oh yeah. It happened with cohort 1 too.
Oh, right. Then, Prashant, do you read every post that is shared in the Slack?
Mostly, yes. I'm not sure who has asked this, but yeah, mostly, yes. In fact, there was another question: how much time do I spend on a daily basis?
Yeah. That also was there. How much time do you spend on daily basis just for the purpose of keeping everybody, together?
Yeah. So I think I've told you guys, right? Right now, I took a break post my On Deck this thing where I was leading international growth for On Deck, which is a very well-known education company. So I took a break and I wanted to, start off some experiments. Build was one of them actually, and Build has taken off so much that now I'm like, okay, because it is working out well, let me just be on break and keep running this and give it, enough time. So in today's date, I would actually invest more than 5 hours a day just to ensure that every aspect of the program, of the cohort, plus the community is running in a very tight-knit fashion. So right from in fact, obviously you guys might have made it out by now that I ensure that all of the people who come for the masterclasses, they are prepared, right? They do the masterclasses in a certain way. They know where to start, where to end, leave time for Q&A, etc., etc. So all of that happens. So yeah, 5 to 6 hours on a daily basis, but I don't regret all of it. And this actually is a good segue to one of Rajiv's question, right? Which is what keeps me inspired and motivated to keep doing this on a daily basis. I think that was one of Rajiv's question. Very simple here. You have to know what drives you. I think I get driven a lot by, in fact, even if you go to Slack right now, click on my profile, you will see that it talks about, it says that takes bet on people and makes them successful. I think that's what I have written, because I truly enjoy doing that, wherein I would be like, okay, I know this person is coming from a good enough background, has aspirations, I can ensure that this person actually becomes successful with whatever success parameter has been defined at this point of time, right? So I actually thrive doing that and enjoy that process, and I love that process. And when you love doing something, you will actually not get tired a lot, right? When I get this asked so many times, how come you're not tired on most of the days? I'm like, you only get tired if you're doing something which you don't like, right? Like, let's say if I'm in a job where I hate that job, I'll get tired every hour, right?
Right.
But yeah, like for example, if you ask a cricketer, do they get tired? They don't actually, right? Because they absolutely love.
True, Prashant. So last 2-3 minutes, because we all have masterclass at 8 p.m. Any last question that Prashant you would like to take from this?
We have time. By the way, masterclass is at 9 p.m. and there's 8 p.m. optional Q&A with Akhil and Madan.
Oh, okay. Then
That's not optional. I think everyone will attend.
So my main thing is I have seen products where these community, they're creating these communities and they are sticking around like DigitalOcean, XDA developers and some other products. So how do you think, or have you created something like that?
Yeah, I have not actually created something exactly like that, but I've been very closely involved with one of them. In fact, DigitalOcean, I was very close to the person who did that. But Branch Metrics, I'm pretty sure you know and I've heard of Branch Metrics, right? This mobile deep linking platform, again a San Francisco based startup. When they came to India, it was brought to India by one of our very close friends, and then Neeti got involved. So what they did is they were like, okay, our product is aimed at mobile developers or product managers, etc., and they are the people who would kind of use this product and integrate it. So now we will create the like mobile community of India or mobile growth, something like that they called it, right? And then what they started doing is every month they would host event. They'll call product managers, head of product, etc., and these kind of people have panel discussions. Some 50-60 people would turn up every single month, keep repeating that. Within a year, they went from like 10 people in the community to something like 5,000-10,000, and they would do these dinner parties, etc. So the thing is, these kind of communities actually, obviously, they want to add a lot of value to people, but their core is around how can we add value and then ensure it kind of builds a funnel, which is not wrong, right? Because obviously you want to drive, ultimately the business has to make money, right? And then there are ways in which the businesses can make money. So let's say for mobile growth, it was okay, we'll do panel discussions around everything mobile, right? With the leading people in mobile, do it every month. And then because of those discussions, people will get value. There are students, there are entrepreneurs, there were product people, mobile people, etc., who would come and attend that. They would get value. Then at the end of it, you talk about your own product, which is Branch, and then tell them about what it is and how it can be helpful. And let's say if 100 people are attending, 10 might actually become your customer. Great, right? But if you look at it, it's not a community that is like, okay, this is what we do everything for people. It's a community that, okay, these are the things that we're doing. This is what we do. Will you be interested? There's a difference, right? So for example, when you are in the build community, I'm not trying to sell you anything else, right? In the build community.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, thanks. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So what about open source communities? I mean, I created an open source as my first side project. So I want to really know if I can. I saw some people who are related, I mean, not on the build community, from somewhere that came and actually liked my project and said, this is interesting. So I was really intrigued because I never advertised it outside the build community. And how did he find it? And if I can actually convert that to a community, that's why I asked that question.
You have to understand, Sabin, that community, few things, right? You have to ask the question, do you really need a community? Because running a community, building a community is almost the same thing as running and building a product, right? Unless and until that community is going to very closely help drive your own product, then it doesn't make a lot of sense for you to go invest so much of time, effort, resource, even sometimes even money to actually think of something, plan for that, get some people, think about what will happen on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, actually deliver that, then keep bringing more people, do it, repeat it. Then that would become your main focus. Your product will become the secondary focus, right? Instead, there are already so many communities of open source, or let's say dev communities. There's DevFolio, there's Python group, there's this group, that group, there's open source in itself. There are so many communities. You can very well just tap into, unless the question that you need to ask is, is this community so fundamentally different that there is a need to build this separately apart from what already exists? I think this is something that Ankur said yesterday, but yeah, right? Because if not, then the effort that is needed to build a community is too high to justify, doing that. And rely on the communities that's already there. Your objective is what is your objective is to push your product forward, then push it forward. Don't focus on the community, right? Rely on the community that's already there. And then if you want to build a community around your product, then that's a different ballgame, right? Which is like, okay, can you get 100, 200 people to use your product, right? And then get them at a certain place. Now, even then, you have to define what. So for example, in today's date, Airbnb can say, let me build a community of all the hosts. Everybody, come and join a Discord. It makes a lot of sense, but Airbnb hasn't done it, right? Because it's very hard for Airbnb. I'll tell you, I might be wrong, but how can Airbnb think what to do with hosts in the community? What will you do, right? You cannot just say, okay, 100,000 hosts, come join here. Then every day there will be 1,000 people who will also leave because there's nothing happening.
Okay.
So when thinking about the community, don't think that you need a community. Think about what do you want the community to actually drive? What will happen in the community? And that if the answer to that what is a community, then build a community. The answer to that what can be something very different also.
Okay, yeah, that makes actually sense. But since it's an open source project, shouldn't my initial thought was, shouldn't it be driven by a community? That's the entire flow of it. But yeah, I got your point.
Yeah, because it is very easy to fall into this trap, Sebin, that you need a community, right? And you need a community around your product. But what's important to remember is what is that you want to drive. If you start with the what, then you will be able to answer whether community actually fits into that what. Because if it doesn't, then you're trying to do something which is not moving your product forward. You'll lose interest very soon. The first thing that needs to be true for community is you really, really have to be a people person. You cannot run a community. Okay, I'm not discouraging you from starting a community. Starting a community is a very high effort game. Play that only when it is aligned to what you want to achieve as a goal. I think Rajiv has a question. Rajiv, you want to ask the last question? If no, then I'm fine. But if you have a question, go ahead.
So what Rajiv had asked was, what's your engagement strategy for keeping the momentum high in the community, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, strategy is a MBA word. So there is nothing like a strategy per se, right? Again, this comes down to understanding. One is, if you see, even before you got into the community, you were very clear that, okay, there are 4 weeks. This is what is going to happen across 4 weeks, right? It was kind of established, right? Now my role becomes on a daily or a 3-day basis or a weekly basis to keep ensuring that I'm talking about the things that are already happening, or I'm talking about the things that will happen. So if you see my post, it's actually centered around these two things that have happened or things that will happen. So let's say new week is coming up, you will see that I actually write up something to ensure that everybody is prepped up, etc. I actually speak a lot about somebody new is coming to talk to the build community. I do that a lot because that then suddenly builds a lot of energy and momentum, right? And because if you keep doing these things, then people are also, if you look at the objective, the builder's objective in this community is to actually build. And if I talk about things that are already happening about building and things that are going to happen for building, it is centered on them and they'll actually take notice, right? That, Prashant is talking about something that is about me, so I'll take note. Yeah. If you talk about something that's only about you, then they'll start ignoring. And that is, you can say that's a strategy, but yeah, that is how I always ensure that it is, bubbling with energy or has momentum.
Understood. Thanks.
Rajiv is like, nah, I needed a different answer.
Because your posts are very nice. It makes others to take action.
Oh, the thing is, I should add this, right? Because I never actually write a post as a figment of imagination, which is like, so if I have to share and update the community on something, it cannot be like I'm writing then and there, right? So I'll write a post to myself. I'll do this all the time, right? I will write a post to myself. I'll edit it. I'll highlight it, etc. Because you know, for good or bad, people are always judging you, right? And every single step that you take, they actually decide whether this is now going in the no matter what I do, I bring an Elon Musk, but even tomorrow, if I write something, right, which is actually not well drafted, which is very confusing, then people are like, this is now losing steam, right? So that is why it is very important to take these, like steps which are calculated, but it doesn't feel like that. Even, in my writing, you would still feel that sense of bubbliness, energy, etc. because I don't become very robotic.
Yeah, I think that the energy after the masterclass and the energy that's seen in the post, it's like continued. There's no gap. So we feel that, okay, this is like a, parting post for this masterclass. Like there's an intro post for it stitches everything together every day.
I'm glad that all of you feel like that. In fact, when cohort 1 ended, so many people told us that was like the best month, one of the best month of their lives. And I was like, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, definitely. Even for me, it's like almost life transforming because I'm getting to speak with so many people with brilliant ideas and thoughts. Definitely.
Yeah. And I think Aditi, we have come upon time, right?
Yes. Just 2-3 minutes more, Prashant. Before we go, I want everybody to unmute, and I will say something. You just answer. Okay.
Yeah.
Can everybody unmute?
Yeah, just 1 second. Yeah, go ahead.
So, how is the Josh?
Hi, sir.
Hi, sir.
Hi, sir.
So one more time. How's the Josh?
Hi,
sir.
So that's how we feel about the community, Prashant. And you're one of the coolest persons I've ever met. In fact, you all know before we started this, when only Prashant and I were there in the Zoom room, he said, Aditi, koi nahi bhi aana, koi tension nahi hai. We are going to have fun. So he took out all the tension that I had about the interview thing, but I absolutely loved it, Prashant, and I think you have given us enough material to create a course on how to build communities that thrive.
Yeah,
so,
we can actually do that.
maybe I can take up that as one side project just to create that course. And I'm really thankful, really thankful, Prashant, that you gave time and you shared everything so openly with us. Absolutely loved the whole thing. Thanks everyone for attending.
Thank you so much, Aditi, and I'm hoping the people were able to drive value out of it. And thanks so much, Aditi, for thinking that I can bring value. And yeah, it's like, it is very easy. The easiest thing to do in the world is to just be yourself. I think now I've realized that, so I'm just like, whoever I am, I'll be that.
Thanks, Prashant.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And like Prashant says, bye.
Bye.